You're listening to Talk to Brazil with Tom Reaoch. Welcome to Talk to Brazil, the world's first English-language internet radio program about business in Brazil, now in podcast format. I'm Tom Reaoch and your host for the show. I'm talking from the city of Campinas, the state of São Paulo, Brazil, so when you talk to Tom, you talk to Brazil and the world. Today's guest is Carlo Barbieri. Carlo Barbieri is a native Brazilian. He's an entrepreneur, a civil activist, and a leader of many organizations associated with Brazil. He's currently the CEO of the Oxford Group, located in Boca Raton, Florida. And the Oxford Group, and their site is oxfordusa.com, is a firm composed of many international consulting and trading companies. Carlo Barbieri is also a founding member of the Brazilian Business Group and founding member and past president of the Brazil Club. In addition, he serves as a board member of the Deerfield Chamber of Commerce and has served as a member of the Florida Chamber of Commerce and the Florida-Brazil Partnership. He was past president of the Rotary Club in Boca Raton, presided over a number of organizations such as the Brazilian Association of Trading Companies, the Brazil-China Chamber of Commerce in São Paulo, the Brazil-Australia Chamber of Commerce. He was director of the Trade Center of the State of São Paulo, the Brazilian Association of Freight Forwarders, and the Brazilian Association of Banks. And he was also the local council member for the Consulate General of Brazil in Miami. Next Tuesday, Carlo and I will be together here in Campinas for the 6th Internationalization of Companies seminar, where Carlo will make the headline presentation. So with that, Carlo, good morning, and thanks for being with us on Talk to Brazil.
Thank you for the opportunity to be with you.
Well, Carlo, you were a frequent, you're Brazilian living in the States, so I think you've been there more than here. What I'd like to talk about partly and initially is your expectations now. Again, you'll be making a presentation here in Campinas, and I'm sure it's a presentation you've made many times. But what are your expectations here for Campinas this coming week?
Campinas is one of the best cities in the state of São Paulo, where you can find most of the multinational companies that are developing their business in Brazil. And this gives to Campinas a international atmosphere where the companies, the Brazilian companies, understand how important it is to be global, to establish their business overseas. And my expectation in this seminar is to give more inside information how good and how to do to be international and how important is to be international in order to have a safe company.
Now, you as a Brazilian, and you mentioned before we started, you've started the Oxford Group more than 40 years ago. So what I would say, you've actually discovered America for Brazilian companies. And since you've been there, you've gone through all of the evolutions, you know how strong the state of Florida is in terms of business relations with Brazil. What do you think is the major challenge for Brazilian companies? Why do they sometimes fear the internationalization?
That's a good question. First of all, as you said, United States presently is having a fantastic growth. The GDP last year was growing more than 3%, and the expectation that it continue to grow.
Mm-hmm.
In the United States, Florida is for sure one of the most friendly states under the for the entrepreneurs and in the entrepreneurship. And you see Florida in the last 8 years, they create 1.6 million jobs.
Wow.
And pay something around 25% of their debts. This means that Florida is one of the best states under the business point of view,
mm-hmm.
not because just there is a good state, but Florida will grow something around 6 million new inhabitants in the next 10 years,
mm-hmm.
What means that they need all kind of business and all kind of business have the opportunity to develop their activity there. And that's one of the main points that I intend to bring to the Campinas entrepreneurs, because usually when local company is afraid to take the challenges to go overseas, but the language, the lack of culture for international business, and is one of the more important points that I intend to focus in this seminar, how to do this in a safe way, using all the capacity, but taking care with the challenges that you have when you move to another country.
Yeah, because I think I have to say, obviously, I'm an American. I've been there. I've seen that. And you just said that. The United States and Florida specifically is a business-friendly environment. Many times I feel that from the Brazilian aspect, and the reality is in Brazil, it's certainly complicated to start a company. That's really not the case in the States. There's a process. It's smoother. And with help of companies like yourselves, and person like yourself, it's actually very easy to start a company there.
Yes, not just easy, but also there is, as you know, probably better than I, United States have around 2,000 ways to help the companies to start and develop their business in the United States.
Right.
It's not just friendly, they are helpful.
And there's
Florida,
money. They have money and they offer money.
Yes, and as you know, Florida is so easy for the Brazilians. First, you know, Florida receives around 1.6 million Brazilians every year. And not just from São Paulo or Campinas. I was in Manaus last year in November, and I could see that for the people who live in Amazon, go to Florida is easier than go to São Paulo.
Oh, that's true.
And they know that. The big change is to understand that Florida is not just vacation. Florida is a huge opportunity for business. Could you imagine 6 million new applicants in the state of 20? This means something around 30% more opportunities for business to open restaurants, to sell their products, to open new industries in the area. And of course, this will be fantastic for Florida. This will bring money, jobs, and opportunities.
Well, you mentioned a point, because if we take into consideration Manaus in the northern part of Brazil, Fortaleza, Belém, even Recife, Florida is the center of the Caribbean economy, of the Mexican economy. So having a base in Florida, you not only it's probably easier to reach Mexico through Florida from Manaus than it is from Manaus to Mexico.
You are completely right. Also, because this is another very important point, because when you participate, for instance, in this food trade show that we have in Florida every year in September, 80% of the buyers who will be present in this trade show are from Caribbean.
Right.
Then if your coffee is not completely prepared to face the challenge of the American market, you can start from the United States, from Florida, in order to put your product in all Central America and Caribbean.
Right.
That's another easy point. It's easier to go to, let's say, to Puerto Rico from Miami than from São Paulo.
Right.
All this area, they are looking for products, but they don't think to Brazil to find this product. They go to Florida.
Right.
You are there. You have this opportunity. All of these different markets.
Well, you've been obviously involved in all of the logistics and the freight forwarders, and even in my professional life, I saw that using Florida and generally the Miami area for either cross shipping or the duty-free zones that exist there. It was very easy to create a distribution point, just using the United States and Florida as that point, and then redistributing, breaking down containers, shipping on less than container loads. So there were other opportunities that are actually available because of, Florida is the logistic hub that whole region.
And you mentioned one very important point, the free zone. The free zone, the Brazilians usually don't understand the full concepts of free zone.
Mm-hmm.
First, free zone is not a physical location. You can create the free zone in your own country. Second, you can use a free zone to manufacture your product.
Mm-hmm.
If you be interested in prepare a global product, international product, you can create a free zone just for this. You remember that most of the Japanese car factory was established in the United States, used the free zone concept.
Right.
And free zone works very well, so easy. You put the product inside, and being 3 or 4 hours, you have the product outside. Then, under the logistic point of view, and now with the Chinese, look what's happened. Most of the Chinese product is going to the free zones in Florida, in Miami, and from then they wait with the product after until they be sure that the product is sell, in order to don't pay 25% tax in most of the products. Then free zone is a fantastic concept that Florida developed very well, in a very easy way, very friendly, and very fast.
Well, that's an interesting point, because you mentioned the Chinese, but also American companies, European, and the other Caribbean companies and countries. So we're talking about Brazilians going to the States to do business. And again, the Brazilians are worried about their local business. But I think what many people don't perceive is what you just said. The competition for Brazil is coming from outside. And Florida, you can export to Florida, but Florida is exporting back here into Brazil. So many of the companies coming are actually coming through Florida.
You are completely right, and as everyone knows, Florida has Brazil is for Florida the more important partner, and all the governors from Florida are aware about that and try to help the Brazilian companies to develop their business there. And I have a good experience in this point, because a lot of Brazilian companies that we analyze and prepare the business plan and other projects, we could realize that sometimes, or most of the times, it's cheaper and better to produce anything in Florida than in Brazil, because our or we are very complex country here to open the company, as you said, but also to keep the company working. And with all these confusion laws about labor law and the tax and other things. And in Florida, you have the opportunity to, let's say, just buy hours of one industry in order that they could your product. You don't need to open a full facility there. You start to do a business, and this avoid a lot of, let's say, of capital, a lot of working capital for your activity, no?
Well, we're talking a lot of, again, the Brazilian companies going to the U.S., but Oxford offers the same service to foreign companies, right? The same orientation. And you mentioned the complexities of Brazil. So you are a Brazilian, you certainly understand the complexities here. So you're also the guide to the Brazilian market for foreigners?
Yes. We try to do this. Was easier before. In the last 16 years, or I can say maybe 24 years, Brazil becomes more and more complex. We hope that with this new orientation of the present government, this will change a little bit. But we know that it will take time, and usually the company don't have enough time to wait for, let's say, more 4 or 8 years to have everything change here. And,
the world changes every day, right? The world changes every morning when we wake up.
Exactly. This is the main point. And sometimes to be more competitive, you need to go to a country like the United States also, because there you learn what's the real competition.
Right.
Because, of course, one company is $20 trillion in GDP. And not just the Brazilian looking for the United States. You have another 7 billion
world,
guys looking for the United States. Then then you must be careful. First, you need to understand what's the culture of the country, how to work there, how the competition works, and find a way to be in. It's not that easy, but it's not, at the same time, it is a huge opportunity, you know.
And it's not impossible. As you've shown in your lifetime doing this, it is possible. You see the number of Brazilian companies established there. You see the number of companies, foreign companies coming to Brazil. You mentioned the Campinas area. Much of the drive in our area is from companies coming into the area. The Chinese, as you mentioned, too. In your Brazil-China Chamber of Commerce, you know the strength of the Chinese here in Brazil and in our area. And it's not only product technology. Technology is coming. So there's a lot happening. And Campinas is the natural hub for distribution because of our airport.
Oh, yes. And also you have the culture in the city. When I live in Brazil, I have many clients in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Europe, like Tetra Pak, until IBM, and at that time Singer was America, and others, and we could see that. But Campinas becomes not just a nice place to live, but a fantastic opportunity for business.
Right.
Unfortunately, the problem is not Campinas. The problem was during all of these 20-something years, the Brazilian government, they tried to bureaucratize everything. That's a lot. And then there is a lot of companies looking for, let's say, opportunity to survive overseas, no?
Right. And only the strong survive here, right? As they say, Brazil is not for amateurs. So, but I guess that's the same anywhere. Even going into the States, the professional help like that you offer is always a requirement in any culture. Because no two places are the same.
Exactly. As you said, I work with China for a long time. I have been almost 50 times in China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and all this area. And what I learned, okay, each country is different, each culture is different, each people is different, and the way to do business, any one of them is completely different. And the United States, for sure, we have the same situation. The difference is that the American market is, let's say, everyone wanted. And you must be prepared to meet the challenge of that.
Well, one thing I've learned with all the different cultures in the world, and one thing that they all seem to have in common, is a bottom line. And they're interested in either making money for their company, for their shareholders, for their country. And what drives economies and what drives development is the fact that you can profit. And profit is the driver for everything that we're talking about. And that's where everybody's going. Where's the money?
Yes, and this is another interesting point. The United States is so friendly. United States to you get your money. Let's consider the cost of the money in Brazil, the cost of money in the United States. The easiest way to use your credit here and transfer this credit to the United States and use it there. The small business administration, that's not that small, companies with 500 employees could be a small company. How easy to get the federal government support guarantee for the banks to develop your own business.
Right.
In other words, the United States is quite easy, and especially this project that we have made of Tom's United States EB5, where you bring people looking for green card, and at the same time they are using the money in their company or other companies. Then the United States is open for business 24/7.
24/7. Never closes. Well, very good, Carlo. I want to thank you. We're coming to the end of our program time, but I certainly want to thank you for sharing, and we look forward to seeing and meeting you again here in Campinas for your presentation. And I'm sure the companies here in our region, one of the things that Leonardo Tiroli is focusing on through these forums is exactly that. How can we educate the persons? How can we educate the business owner to be able to become an international company? They don't have to be a global in the huge sense, but to understand the path to success. And it's actually very easy. It's not as complex as most people think. So we're going to be very interested in hearing what you have to say this coming Tuesday, okay?
I hope to do that.
Well, thanks again for being here.
Probably,
Okay. And I want to thank our audience for listening to us today. And again, for Carlos for sharing with us and the information. I want you to all know that you can find more about Carlo Barbieri on LinkedIn or at the site for Oxford, and that's oxfordusa.com. And also like to invite everyone to visit our website, talktobrazil.com, and also find today's show that will be up on our site very shortly. You can also find other programs of Talk to Brazil on Spotify, iTunes, and TuneIn. So thanks to our audience, and remind everyone that today's program was brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, and Focus MI specializes in the market research for the Brazilian agricultural market. And for more about them, you can visit their site, which is focusmi.com. And always send your suggestions or comments, or find me at tom@talktobrazil.com, and join the Talk to Brazil group on LinkedIn and follow our discussions. So with that, I'd like to remember that when you talk to Tom, you talk to Brazil and the world. Goodbye, and thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Tom Reaoch on Talk to Brazil, the business connector to Brazil.